Well, hello there, my beautiful peoples. Today, I'm taking you out on a walk because I need to walk more. And as I explained in my last video, it's hard to record inside my house. I can't wait till night this time because I have to leave early. Woo! So fun. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about anxiety and what it's put me through, I guess. It's gotten worse the older I get, probably because there are more and more things to worry about, like what college I want to go to, and if I'll be able to support myself as an adult. At the same time, it is starting to level out because of things like this. Things like YouTube and going on more walks, and all sorts of other stuff. They've helped me learn how to deal with it. YouTube has especially helped because you need a lot of confidence for YouTube, and I started faking having confidence for YouTube, and that sort of led to real confidence. Guess I faked it till I made it. So that's what's going on today. I hope you enjoy our little walk and the painting that's going on. I think going on a walk would be a good format for my videos in the future. Just as sort of a branding thing, I guess. Oh, look. There's that person who walks and talks. Wow. I should subscribe to them. That definitely works. Anyway, I think there are a lot of things that led to me having anxiety. I've had social anxiety for as long as I can remember. Well, I think there were other factors that led to it, like with most mental illnesses. I clearly remember the breaking point. I was in kindergarten, and one of my best friends died of heart failure in kindergarten. That hurt a lot. It was my first experience with death, and it was someone I saw almost every day and who was far too young to die. And there wasn't very much warning. I think an adult could have seen that she was about to die, but as a child, I could not see that. Ever since the start of the year, she had missed, at least like one day a week to go to the doctor's appointment, right? Now, about halfway through the year, it was sort of closer to one day a week she would show up at school, and the rest she was at the hospital. And so an adult could have seen, oh, something's wrong, but I was 6, and I could not see something was wrong. I was upset my friend wasn't there to play with, but I didn't think, oh, she's gonna die because she keeps going to the hospital. And like a month or two before the end of the school year, our kindergarten teacher, oh, there's a dog. Hi, dog. Don't bark, please. Anyway, a couple months before the end of the school year, my kindergarten teacher got all of us around, and my best friend wasn't there that day, and she goes, hey, she is experiencing some mild heart failure, and if no one gives her a new heart to use, then she will die. That was pretty intense, but at the time, I was like, why wouldn't someone give her a heart to use? Of course, she's gonna get a new heart to use, and she will live, and she'll come back next year. And she didn't get a new heart to use. And by the end of the school year, she was dead. I'm pretty sure my kindergarten teacher was the one who told me, but I don't remember. I was upset for obvious reasons, so I convinced my grandma to take me to her funeral, and my grandma agreed. Basically, since I've been alive, my grandma has been pretty confused, I would say. We think that she might have Alzheimer's, but she won't really admit it. But anyway, she got the time wrong, and so she took me to the viewing and not the funeral. And she goes, oh, this isn't the funeral, and I don't have the time for the funeral. So, there's a car. She goes, I don't have the time to stay for the funeral because it's at a different time than I thought. So, you'll just have to say goodbye now. So, I didn't even get to go to the funeral, but I did get to see her. It was, I don't want to say open casket, because it wasn't really open. She was in a glass, I don't know if it's a casket or a coffin. She was in a glass tomb, like Snow White. It basically looked exactly like the one from Snow White. And I said goodbye. And, you know, then summer break went by, and my other best friend doesn't show up to the first day of school. And my teacher, when I asked her about it, she said that she was enrolled, so maybe she'd be there in a few days. And a week goes by, and she hasn't showed up. And my teacher says that her mom decided to put her in another school. And then the next year, her name is on one of those, like, attendance activity boards that my teacher that year used. And again, she didn't show up for another week. And my teacher said, well, she enrolled, but she never showed up. And this continued until 4th grade, when there stopped being an expectation for her to come back. It was really upsetting to lose both my best friends. And I call them my best friends, but in reality, they were sort of my only friends. That's sort of where it all started. It was like, why should I have friends if they're all going to leave me? Why should I have friends if they won't be there for me? Even if it's not in their control to be. And that was the mentality I had for about a year, and then I tried to make new friends. there was a new girl, and I chose her to be my new friend. And she sort of had the same mentality as me. Why should I have friends if they're going to be taken away? Because as I said, she just got transferred from a different school. Looking back on it, she showed pretty clear signs of abuse. And we were only half friends. And then she left. And then another new girl came. I tried out being friends with her. And then she left. And I quit having friends. I had acquaintances. I had a new boy that I really wanted to be friends with because he was the first person that I ever really had anything in common with. We played the same video games and read the same books and had the same favorite author. But as most of you know, I am trans. At the time, I was presenting as a girl. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you know how elementary and middle school works, and even kind of high school too. It's girls hang out with girls and boys hang out with boys. And if boys hang out with girls, then they have a crush on them. And no one wants that. So, as the social order of the school dictated, oh no, someone's doing construction work. Anyway, as the social order of the school dictated, we could not be friends. So I didn't have any friends until high school. And then winter break hit, and none of them talked to me. And I was like, okay, they're probably doing stuff with their families. And I told all of them I was switching schools, and they were like, oh, bye, we'll miss you. It'll be so different without you, even though I'd only been in that school for a year. And then summer break came, and most of them haven't talked to me since, even those that I've reached out to, been like, hey, do you want to do something? They were sort of just the people I sat with at lunch, and not anything more, and that was hard to take too, since, you know, it was sort of realizing that I hadn't had any friends since kindergarten. Back to anxiety, instead of not having any friends, I tend to be very paranoid in general. This especially started after my grandma, oh dear, I forgot to put my phone on silent. Anyway, this especially started after my grandma gave me a book on unsolved mysteries in my state. And by mysteries, it meant kidnappings and murders, and occasionally a cryptid, but mostly kidnappings and murders. And I was still figuring out how everything worked, and I had anxiety already. This was not good. I became afraid of the dark. I was fine with the dark up until I read that book, and then I developed a fear of the dark at 8 years old. And then I still have a fear of the dark, you know, and it's like, it's ridiculous. Why should I have a fear of the dark? And now it's gotten more reasonable, I would say. And instead of there being someone with a sniper rifle waiting for me to get in just the right position, it is more about the possibility of like perverts looking in. At least that's more reasonable, you know? But, you know, there is still some unreasonable things. If I go outside alone and there is a vehicle, my brain will automatically go to it turning on by itself just to run me over. And that doesn't make any sense at all, you know? I also wanted to give my opinions, my theories on anxiety as sort of like as an illness. It runs in families, which is obvious to see, but I'm not entirely 100% convinced that it is genetic. As a lot of you know, poverty also runs in families. And that is obviously not genetic. It is because of how people are raised, and how society deals with poor people. And I think that anxiety is sort of like that. It is because of how you're raised. You are raised to be poor if your parents are poor. And if your parents have anxiety, you are raised to have anxiety. If your mom is scared of everything and thinks that you should be scared of everything, then as a child you're going to pick up on that. If your dad talks about the latest murders while you're around as a very small child, you'll pick up on that. And it'll be part of your life at a very young age. And I don't think that's very good. I wish there were some way to regulate who had kids, and the people who wanted to had to take a class on how to parent, because I think everything would be better off, but that'd be so hard to monitor, you know? You'd have to take away so many other rights to do that, and while I think it's a cool idea, it would be hard to implement, you know? And while it'd be good for some things, I think it'd be awful for some other things. I also think that the rates of mental illness are up for two reasons. One is because mental illness is more likely to be taken seriously now. If a boy has depression, he's less likely to be told to suck it up, or that he's just sad, or people in general. But a lot of you probably know that mostly boys are told that their mental illness doesn't matter. And children are being slowly taken more seriously instead of not being believed or being told that their problems aren't as important as adult problems. So that's reason number one. And reason number two, I think, is because of what's happening now. Gen Z grew up with 9/11. They were either toddlers when it happened, or every year of their life they've gone to school and they've been told, hey, let's talk about this horrible thing for an entire day. Let's talk about these thousands of casualties once a year, all day, and they learn about it and they're told about it every year, and then they grow up and the news is on and it's always talking about the newest terror attack or the newest school shooting. And who wouldn't develop a mental illness after all of that? Who wouldn't be scared or upset after all that? We were children when that happened. We were young, we were developing, and we developed around that. And I think that is another reason why they've been going up, the rates of depression and anxiety. I've talked a lot about bad stuff today. I've talked a lot about, mental illness, because that's the theme of the video. I've talked about how awful the world is. So let's end on a good note. Violent crime has been going down for years. Every year it has decreased since, I think it was the 70s. I don't remember if that was the exact year. Earlier this year, shelters all across the U.S. ran out of animals because they had all been adopted. Hundreds of animals got out of bad places. They got a better home. Not saying that shelters are bad, but they aren't a home. They are where you stay, not a home. The middle class is constantly growing. The lower class is getting smaller because there are more people breaking out of poverty than there are people coming into it. And I think that is really good. I think that, a lot of horrible things lead to good things, and I'm a big believer in the butterfly effect. If I hadn't gotten on that swing in kindergarten, I wouldn't have been best friends with the girl who moved away. And I may not have had other parts of my life so hard, mentally. Obviously that wouldn't have fixed my mom's financial situation, but it might have fixed my opinions on having friends and what I think of people. If I hadn't gotten on that swing, then I probably wouldn't be making this video or any videos, Every little thing adds up to big things. little things lead to other little things that lead to medium things that lead to big things. And I think that's really important. And that has also helped me to stay more positive as well, because, every day that I do one little good thing, every day I get out of bed and make a YouTube video instead of watching YouTube, is a day that things will be made better in the future because of. Every day that I remember to drink enough water will, it'll have an impact because I won't be cranky that day, which might affect one of many things. It might affect my relationship with my parents. It might affect a sale I'm trying to make, or it might just affect, friendships that I could have made if I weren't so grumpy, And taking this walk, even though I've only been walking for, less than 20 minutes, I feel better, and I know that in the end this is better for me than if I had chosen to not, or if I had chosen, instead of walking, to go outside and sit in the backyard. And last week I went out and looked at some stars, and it made me so happy, It was so small, but I went out and I felt the cold, and my cat walked up to me, pressed against my legs, and I saw the stars. And it was a lot more magical than I would have thought. So that's all for today. I love you all, and keep on arting, my beautiful peoples.